The media has been reporting a story this week about police using tear gas to move demonstrators away from St. John's Episcopal Church near the White House. This story is false. Many, if not every, mainstream media outlet has pushed this story. The New York Times reported on Monday, protesters dispersed with tear gas so Trump could pose at church. CBS News had this to say.
Peaceful protests turned violent in the nation's capital Monday to allow President Trump to pose for a photo op in front of the famous St. John's Church. Shortly before the 7 p.m. citywide curfew, police and the National Guard used flashbang explosives and tear gas in order to disperse a crowd that had been peacefully protesting in front of the White House.
This was not true. Tear gas was not used. Acting USPP Chief Gregory Monahan said in a statement that smoke canisters and pepper balls were used to combat violent protesters. Quote, as many of the protesters became more combative, continued to throw projectiles, and attempted to grab officers' weapons, officers then employed the use of smoke canisters and pepper balls, Monahan said. No tear gas was used by USPP officers or other assisting law enforcement partners to close the area at Lafayette Park, he said. The National Guard and other police also took part in clearing the space on Monday. This story was picked up by all the press nationwide. Hillary Clinton tweeted, tonight, the President of the United States used the American military to shoot peaceful protesters with rubber bullets and tear gas them for a photo op. Elizabeth Warren tweeted, the President of the United States tear-gassed peaceful protesters in order to clear the way for a useless photo op outside the White House, just after vowing to activate the military against our own people. And Joe Biden tweeted, he's using the American military against the American people. He tear-gassed peaceful protesters and fired rubber bullets for a photo. All of these tweets are still live as of this recording on Wednesday. The stories have not been corrected. The media and leading Democratic politicians are lying. They don't care. They know that the public that hates Donald Trump does not expect the truth. Orange man bad. That's all that matters. The media and the Democratic politicians know that they can get away with lying to the public because there's not a single news organization out there with the guts to call them out. The Washington Post doubled down today, quote, these compounds are typically referred to as tear gas because their prominent effect is to bring on tears. This is the same tactic the New York Times used when it redefined the giant Asian hornet as murder hornets. Link to the video I did that in the description. This changes one of my funniest stories when the safety bar of the octopus ride at the Texas State Fair set off the pepper spray in my pocket. I didn't know it then, but I set off tear gas on a carnival ride. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Tiger King Joe Exotic loses zoo to Carole Baskin in court ruling. From The Hollywood Reporter. Baskin's big cat rescue was given control of the zoo in Oklahoma on Monday in lieu of payment of a $1 million trademark judgment. Joe Exotic is back in the news after a federal judge ruled that the jailed star of Netflix docuseries Tiger King has to hand over the zoo properties to his arch nemesis, Carole Baskin, as part of a $1 million trademark judgment. Courthouse News reports that Baskin's big cat rescue convinced a U.S. district judge in Oklahoma City that Exotic, real name Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage, fraudulently transferred the zoo properties to his mother Shirley in 2011 in order to keep the properties out of the reach of creditors. China delayed releasing coronavirus info, frustrating WHO. This story is from the AP. Throughout January, the World Health Organization publicly praised China for what it called a speedy response to the new coronavirus. It repeatedly thanked the Chinese government for sharing the genetic map of the virus immediately and said it works and commitment to transparency were, quote, very impressive and beyond words, unquote. But behind the scenes, it was a much different story. One of the significant delays by China and considerable frustration among WHO officials over not getting the information they needed to fight the spread of the deadly virus, the Associated Press has found. The story behind the early response to the virus comes at a time when the UN Health Agency is under siege and has agreed to an independent probe of how the pandemic was handled globally. After repeatedly praising the Chinese response early on, U.S. President Donald Trump has blasted WHO in recent weeks for allegedly colluding with China to hide the extent of the coronavirus crisis. He cut ties to the organization on Friday, jeopardizing the approximately $450 million the U.S. gives every year as WHO's single biggest donor. In the meantime, Chinese President Xi Jinping has vowed to pitch in $2 billion over the next 2 years to fight the coronavirus, saying China has always provided information to WHO and the world, quote, in a most timely fashion. No matter how you feel about any of the parties involved, it's pretty clear the Chinese government lied, and the result was deadly. And the World Health Organization failed to safeguard the public. If you watched my channel, I publicly questioned many of the WHO recommendations in March before anyone in the mainstream press. And some lighter news. This is from a month ago, from Reuters. A trooper stopping a car with a suspected impaired driver on a U.S. highway was bemused to find a 5-year-old in the driver's seat. The boy, who was not identified, as he's a minor, said he had left his home in his parents' vehicle after arguing with his mother, who told him she would not buy him a Lamborghini. He decided to take the car and go to California and buy one himself, the police said, adding, he might have been short on the purchase amount, as he only had $3 in his wallet. That's it. That's another newscast. I'm trying to do something different here. If you like what I am doing, please hit the like button and share this video with someone else. That is the best thing that you can do to support this channel. Have an awesome day. Peace.